Ryan and Priya both had $79,000 saved on the same day. Ryan put his into a 20% down payment on a $400,000 house. Priya put hers in an index fund and kept renting 2 floors below that same house. For the first 5 years, Ryan looked like he'd made the obviously smarter choice. He owned something. Priya was, in his words, still just paying someone else's mortgage. But run the actual numbers past year 7. And the story starts to flip in a way almost nobody expects. And it has nothing to do with the housing market crashing or Priya picking a lucky stock. It's about 5 specific numbers that most rent versus buy conversations completely leave out. Numbers that quietly decide who actually comes out ahead. I'm Alexandra, and I investigate where money actually goes, not where people assume it goes. Today, I'm opening the actual case file on Ryan and Priya's $79,000. Year by year, and the 5th number is the one that decides this entire case. Stay to the end, because it's not the one either of them saw coming. Number 1, the hidden entry fee. The day Ryan closed on the house, his $79,000 didn't all go toward the home. Before he even got the keys, a chunk of it disappeared into fees he'd barely noticed on the paperwork. Closing costs on a home purchase typically run 2 to 5% of the price on a $400,000 home. That's $8,000 to $20,000 gone before Ryan owns a single brick of equity. Priya's entry fee into her index fund? Essentially zero. According to multiple 2026 mortgage industry sources, buyers pay 2 to 5% in closing costs, and if Ryan ever sells, sellers now pay an average of 5.44% in agent commissions following the 2024 NAR settlement changes. Round trip buying and eventually selling can consume 8 to 13% of the home's value in pure transaction costs alone. Before comparing a mortgage payment to rent, subtract your estimated closing costs from your savings first. That's the real number you're actually investing on day 1, and it's smaller than you think. 2. The rate reality. Ryan's mortgage rate locked in at 6.1%. Every month, a large piece of his payment wasn't building equity at all. It was pure interest, especially in these early years. In the first years of almost any mortgage, the majority of the monthly payment goes to interest, not principal. Priya's rent, meanwhile, went up a little every year, but she never paid a cent of interest to anyone. As of early 2026, the average 30-year fixed mortgage rate sits around 6.0%. According to Freddie Mac, the lowest since September 2022. But still meaning a large share of Ryan's early payments are interest, not ownership. Ask your lender for the amortization schedule before you sign anything. Look specifically at how much of your payment in year 1 actually reduces the loan balance. Most people are shocked at how small that number is. Number 3, the invisible ownership tax. Ryan's mortgage payment was the number he compared to Priya's rent. But that was never the real comparison. Property tax, homeowner's insurance, and maintenance kept showing up as separate charges he hadn't fully budgeted for. A mortgage payment is only part of the true cost of owning. Taxes, insurance, and upkeep are non-equity costs. Money spent that builds no ownership at all. Similar to rent, except they're easy to forget because they don't arrive as one predictable bill. Multiple 2026 housing analyses estimate that these hidden ownership costs add 30 to 40% on top of the base mortgage payment, meaning Ryan's real monthly housing cost was significantly higher than the number he originally compared to Priya's rent. When comparing rent to a mortgage, don't compare rent to the mortgage payment alone. Add estimated property tax, insurance, and 1% of the home's value annually for maintenance. That combined number is the one that actually belongs in the comparison. Number 4, the compounding gap. While Ryan's equity grew slowly with home appreciation, Priya's $79,000 sat in the market compounding every single year, untouched, uninterrupted by any mortgage payment competing for her attention. Home prices have historically appreciated around 3.5% to 4.5% annually over the long run. The stock market has historically returned closer to 10% annually over multi-decade periods. That gap, compounded silently for a decade, becomes enormous not because Priya did anything sophisticated, but because she simply left the money alone. Financial analyses. In 2026, estimate that a $79,000 investment growing at a historical stock market average could grow to roughly $228,000 in 10 years. Compared to home equity appreciation historically, compounding at less than half that rate over the same period. Whatever you're not spending on a down payment, don't let it sit in a checking account for now. The compounding gap between invested and idle. Number 5, the break-even year. Here's the number that actually settles this case, and it's the one both Ryan and Priya assumed they already understood. Everyone assumes buying either always wins long-term or renting always wins short-term. The real answer is a specific year where the lines cross, and it depends entirely on one number almost nobody checks. The break-even point between renting and investing versus buying isn't fixed. It moves dramatically based on the return you assume on the money you didn't put into a house. This is the single most overlooked variable in almost every rent versus buy conversation, because most people either ignore it entirely or quietly assume a number that favors whichever choice they already wanted to make. 2026 rent versus buy modeling shows that at a conservative 4% investment return, buying typically breaks even around year 12. At a 5% return, it stretches to roughly 17 years. At 6% or higher, closer to long-run stock market averages, renting and investing can outperform buying for the entire 30-year period. The single assumption about investment return decides more of this case than the mortgage rate, the home price, or the rent itself. Before deciding to rent or buy, ask yourself one honest question. If you didn't buy, would you actually invest the difference every single month? Or would it quietly get spent? The math only favors renting if the discipline is real. If it isn't, the specific numbers stop mattering. Ryan isn't wrong for buying, and Priya isn't wrong for renting. Neither of them made a mistake. They just never ran the actual 5 numbers that decide which choice wins for their specific timeline and their specific discipline with money. If Ryan plans to stay in that house past year 12, the math is quietly on his side. If Priya keeps investing that difference without fail for the same 12 years, the math is quietly on hers. Same $79,000. 2 completely different bets on time and behavior. The hidden entry fee, the rate reality, the invisible ownership tax, the compounding gap, the break-even year. 5 numbers that decide the entire rent versus buy case, and almost nobody checks all 5 before deciding. If you're weighing renting versus buying right now, calculate just one number today, your realistic break-even year, before you sign anything. Subscribe if this changed how you'll run those numbers. And tell me in the comments, renting or buying, and how many years do you actually plan to stay?